I would say I mainly used two instructional strategies called cold calling and pepper. I also used a third one within that class called Right is Right. And I use this to assess my students individually as we're going over review. So cold calling is when you call on students that aren't raising their hands. This really helps me to individually assess them and also helps them to remain engaged because they know I'm going to be calling on them. They know that I'm going to hear from them at least a couple times throughout the class. So they want to make sure they're on top of it, right? Okay. And the reason they mainly want to make sure that they're on top of it is because they know that if I get to them and they say, I don't know, well, that's not a correct answer. You know, so I'll wait for them. I'll wait for them to look up the answer. You know, they have the PowerPoint on their OneNote, so there really is no excuse for not knowing. And that tends to be something that keeps them engaged. Pepper is a strategy I use where I go fast paced. You know, it's like baseball, kind of throwing out pitches, warming up the batter. They know I'm going to be coming to them next. You know, they know I'm moving at a fast pace and making sure that they're understanding what's going on during the review. And Right is Right is one I use because if they're unable to fully explain the answer to me, then they don't really know the answer. Like if I have to say the answer in order for them to be like, oh yeah, that's it. You know, if I have to complete it for them and they couldn't say it themselves, the whole answer and every bit of it that's correct, then to me that's you're not prepared for the test. When I was reviewing with the kids for the test, you know, I said to one kid, all right, you got off at the right exit, but now we got to find the parking lot and park, saying, you know, you're close, you're warm, but give me more. You know, look it up, go further with it. You know, so we need to make sure that that answer is 100% correct. Don't just memorize the facts, but understand the material and how it relates to each other. You know, how the facts relate to each other behind just the meaning of the words. They can most definitely be used separately. I mean, I can use cold calling at any pace, you know, that I'm teaching. But if I just want to, you know, keep the kids on their toes, make sure that they're engaged, I'll cold call on them during class in general, not just review days. A lot of times I ask the students to explain it back to me, because again, I believe if they can explain it back to me, then they understand it, not just if they halfway explain it back, okay? So I use cold calling a lot to make sure they can do that. Pepper, I use once in a while. I don't think it's good to always move 100 miles an hour. I think it keeps the kids on their toes during review and certain things that we do, but I think it should be used, you know, when appropriate. So cold calling can be used with pepper, right? But I don't think pepper should be used without cold calling. People, I think some people may fear cold calling a little bit because they know if the student doesn't know the answer, they don't want that awkward silence of waiting for the student to get the answer correct. And the truth is, I think a lot of people, they're not necessarily embarrassed for the student, but they get embarrassed themselves as teachers about the awkward silence. You know, you make that embarrassment go away is if you show that the child support. You know, maybe ask a question while the kid's looking for the answer to give them a little bit of time, or just go through the silence. Most of the time the kids can do it, they just get all startled and caught off guard. And then once they figure out they can do it and you reinforce that they took the time and the effort to go ahead and find the correct answer, they feel better about it than just saying, I don't know, and me moving on from them. I mean, I feel like they benefit for the fact that it will keep them more engaged. There is no such thing as a student on their cell phone or taking a nap in my class because they know if they're taking a nap, I'm going to call on them. They know I'm going to wait for them to tell me the right answer. And they enjoy it. They enjoy my fast pace, quickness. I think it somewhat makes them feel like they're in a challenge a little bit, more of a game when you kind of move around the class like that, especially when you throw some jokes in there for sure. But my biggest thing is that these strategies cannot work if you do not have rapport with the students. Building rapport with the students is what's going to produce a good learning environment. And as long as you have that, and I have a relationship with the students, then I can say the jokes, right? Then I can ask them if they saw the football game last night when, you know, one kid's looking up the answer, if I know that kid struggles a little bit, right? Or I could say something to him to help encourage him, make him feel like, hey, you know what, I can find this answer, type of an ordeal.